No joke, I'm currently packing to go lapping this weekend. I'm not going to be around for this weekend, and obviously you might have just seen like my most recent Bloodwave video. I managed to put that out before I have to hop in the car and drive out there. But you don't care about that. What you care about is the nonsense I'm about to show you, and it's all due to the fact that I got a ping in my Discord that didn't make quite a lot of sense, but needed some testing. A community member of mine shared that they found that Soul Rift can snapshot overpower. Now that's insane and can't be right, because Soul Rift can't overpower. It's a damage over time effect. And just to very quickly show that off to you, Soul Rift right here does damage per second. It does damage over time. And when you cast it, if you look at the damage numbers that are coming out of here, you'll notice that they're the typical damage over time numbers. They tick twice per second, and you don't see any crits, you don't see any overpowers. Why? Because it's a damage over time effect. It can't overpower. So what could they possibly mean by snapshotting it? Well, it's when you add on the new unique, the Unmaker, that things start to get a little bit weird. You see, the Unmaker says that whenever you generate 30 essence, you'll deal an instance of damage. Soul Rift deals a percentage of its shadow damage per time to surrounding enemies. And what that means is that while it's a damage over time effect, typically by triggering this unique helmet, you can do an instance of damage. That means that it can crit and overpower it like it normally would. But one, we can't typically make things overpower that aren't blood skills. And two, again, it's a damage over time effect. Why would you ever care about even getting it to overpower sometimes? And since it's only going to come up about 3% of the time, what does it really mean by snapshot? Well, it turns out there is one cheeky little way that you can make things overpower. And that's with the addition of the blood boiling aspect. This is actually something that I had tried out all the way back when blood boiling was first introduced as a vampiric power. And I actually made an overpowering snapshot darkness bone storm build. Now, it wasn't particularly good because it turns out back then bone storm didn't really do a lot of damage, but because you can make bone storm last for 20 seconds and this procs every 20 seconds, you could permanently overpower, add on ultimate shadow and add on darkness damage and darkness skill tag, and you could add a ton of multipliers to the build. Again, it just wasn't particularly good. But we have a different reality now where Soul Rift actually does do real damage because it actually gets skill ranks in it, and Unmaker is a multiplier of that even further. So let me just go ahead and show you this effect. So right here, I have the your next attack will overpower, and I'll click Soul Rift. Bam. And we're not overpowering. Why? Because our damage over time can't overpower. I need to trigger generating essence. And not only that, but the way that Unmaker actually works is that you have to generate an amount of essence, meaning you have to go from less than maximum towards your maximum essence. What that basically means is that you can't generate essence for this effect at maximum essence. So we have to find a way to both spend our essence as fast as possible and generate essence as fast as possible. Well, what spends the most essence and ironically enough generates the most essence? That's Bone Spirit. Bone Spirit uses all your essence on cast, so boom, we already figured out the first issue, but it's also a Macabre skill. And Macabre skill comes along with a very particular tempering available on your rings and amulet. Casting a Macabre skill will restore primary essence. So if you have more than one of these, every single time that I cast Bone Spirit, I will generate 44 essence, which is enough to trigger the Unmaker one time. But it's not just that. That engine really wouldn't be efficient enough for these purposes. We'd have to make it a little bit more interesting. One, we have to crit all the time because Bone Spirit will naturally reduce its own cooldown by 7 seconds whenever it crits. And on top of that, we need to be able to trigger something like Rapid Ossification. Rapid Ossification will reduce the cooldown even further by another 3 seconds for every 100 essence that we spend. So the 3 seconds here, the 7 seconds here, that's 10 seconds. We'd only have to eat up another 2 seconds. But why does any of that really matter? Well, Bone Spirit itself also naturally generates at a very fast rate your maximum resource. Oh, and on top of that, you can add on Shattered Spirit. Shattered Spirit that says you shoot out bone splinters that also generate essence whenever they hit a target. And when you put it all together, it's going to look a little something like this. Now, The damage number you want to look at is going to be in the top right of each one of these target dummies, hopefully. I haven't done it on an AoE effect yet, but it's going to be the orange number or the blue number, because that's going to be our overpower proc. And what you're going to notice is I'm going to generate it at least 2 times per cast on each target. Alrighty, great. I have my overpower proc ready. I will cast it, and now I'm going to spam Bone Spirit. And you'll know, oh, I'm actually overpowering multiple times. Yeah, so 2 to 5 overpowers per target within range. I could actually be even further generating more essence per second, like Masterworks, greater affixes, as well as just generally increasing essence per second on my gear. And I think we got something stupid on our hands here, boys. I was already going to use a Bone Spirit engine for the purposes of triggering the Unmaker, because I think it's going to be the fastest thing that could possibly spend and generate essence fast enough. And I don't mean this is something that I just came up with. I mean, this was created back on 9.4, and this was my idea of how a Soul Rift build would predominantly function. Cast Macabre generates resource, the ability to rapid ossification to immediately reset it. And then my idea is that you actually just kind of build into Soul Rift and you build into Bone Spirit. If you're going to be casting a ton of these, you might as well actually do some decent damage with it. You reach 100% chance to crit, which is what we're going to be triggering off of Unmaker. It naturally gives you both ranks to Soul Rift and Imperfectly Balanced, which works for core skills, which Bone Spirit is a core skill. And then in the Paragon, you basically just take all of the typical multipliers that are generic. So Control just generically works on anything that you CC. Essence for crit, obviously. Scourge, since we're going to be doing shadow damage over time to targets. And once you do that, you automatically trigger additional damage against them. Sacrificial, because we won't have any minions out. Eliminator, because we're going to be fighting elites the majority of the time. Then you toss on just like decent scalers for everything else that you're doing. Chance for Soul Rift to deal double damage. Full crit tempers. And you kind of watch this thing explode. Go ahead and check out the planner down below, and I'm not 100% sure that I'm going to work in this blood boil aspect to be able to always overpower it on it as well. I think that might get a little bit too janky because my expectation is to automatically reset the cooldown of Soul Rift, so I don't think you'll be able to sync them up so much. But this was just a really cool thing to go test, because it does mean that 3% of the time when you naturally overpower on the skill, you will snapshot that, and it will happen every single time that you trigger it, which is going to be a fairly massive increase to the overall damage that we're doing, about 3% of the time. Now, is this how it's supposed to work? Probably not. And to be completely honest, I do think that it's bad that a damage over time effect, even if it has a duration, can eat blood boiling. I just don't think that that's how it should work. But that being said, if it opens up more opportunities to try out weird combinations like this, I'm fully on board. So go ahead and sound off down in the comments below if this is one of the wildest set of combinations you've ever seen in this game. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Leave a like on the video as well if I managed to impress you. And if I didn't, let me know down in the comments what I could have done better. I'm trying to extend my reach here, right? Like, oddly enough, I am trying to be successful at what I do, and losing out on anybody who doesn't particularly find my content that interesting for them is a missed opportunity. So feel free to let me know down there as well. I always appreciate a good critique, but thank you very much for watching this video. I truly, truly hope that it helps, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.